Welcome to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Dr. Josetta Wilkins, who is an icon in our community and has such a wealth of history in our community. Good morning, Dr. Wilkins. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Elliott. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Now, I'm so glad that you're here. I would love to talk about the very rich culture and history that you have, but I know some things that are near and dear to your heart. I know that you're an educator, and you've been an educator for a long time.
Right.
Because you were my wife's advisor. I know that you have an extensive background in politics, and I also know that you're the mother of our church, and you have a son named Dr. Henry Hank Wilkins the fourth. I mean the fourth, and Hank V, which is his son. But something that you told me that is near and dear to you is family. Is that correct?
That is correct. I always say to my children, I have 5 children.
Yes, ma'am.
I was married to my husband, Henry Wilkins III, for over 37 years before his death. And of course, our pastor, Reverend Henry Hank Wilkins IV.
Yes, ma'am.
And he has a son, that is the 5th. But near and dear to my heart was being a mother. I think that being a parent is the hardest job, it's the toughest job, it is the longest job, and it is the most important job. If we are not good parents, then we cannot, it is difficult to raise good citizens, children who become good citizens. So I have always thought that being a mother, a good wife, a good mother, a good homemaker is so very important to our society. Even though I am a strong advocate for education, I was in education for over 50 years.
Yes, ma'am.
I taught school from the elementary all the way through high school, all the way through college. So I am a strong advocate of education, and I always tell my students and my children that education is the key that unlocks the door to all opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, education does not mean that you have to spend all of your time in books.
Right.
Because education comes in so many different forms.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that the home is the foundation for helping children to know the importance of education.
Yes, ma'am. And I think you're absolutely right. But so many times in today's society, they don't have that structure. Is that kind of accurate? Are you seeing that structure not as formed as it used to be?
I think that the educational structure today is not all that it could be. I would not say that it is not as good as it used to be.
Okay.
Because when I was a kid, there was no school in the community where I lived.
Wow.
So kids did not go to school. My father, along with another member of the community, opened up a school in the church where one teacher taught 8 grades. And all of the children in the community went to that one-room school. We had to build a fire, we had to clean, we were our own janitors. We had to walk 3 and 4 miles. As a matter of fact, after that school was closed, that church school, my family members had to walk 7 miles a day to school. So I would not say that things are worse than they used to be. And you hear people say, I want to go back to the good old days.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to a single one, because they were not exactly the good old days.
Right.
They were tough. Now, those tough days made tough citizens, made tough people. But I think that we need to restructure, reorganize our school. I think parents need to stop talking about what the schools are not doing and say what the churches are not doing. I think we need to go directly to the home and teach parenting, help parents to be better parents, help parents to know that if you do not prepare your children to come to school ready to learn, and help teachers to help your kids, because teachers are surrogate parents. When those little 5 and 6-year-old kids leave your home, your care, and go to the school, they should be ready, but they should have good manners.
Yes, ma'am.
Repeat.
Yes,
they
ma'am.
should have good manners.
Yes, ma'am.
They should be able to say yes and no. They should say yes, sir, Mr. Elliott. They should say yes, ma'am, Dr. Wilkins. These children need to be taught good manners, but their parents need to be taught good manners in order to teach the children good manners. So I think that education is a process. I think that education is a kind of thing where the parents, teachers, churches, and community organizations all should work together to help our children. We have more technology.
Yes.
The school buildings are better than they used to be. Our school building was falling down. We had to prop it up. We had to actually prop the school, the church that we went to school. But the teacher, that one teacher, Mrs. Mary Nixon, would organize, the older kids would teach the younger kids, and we all would get together and clean the yard and keep the place clean. There's no excuse for dirty yards.
Yes, ma'am.
No excuse. Somebody needs to come in and help us to know that cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yes,
and we have got to do better with our children and prepare them for jobs and prepare them for the future. I just think it's a disservice to the civilization, to the country, to the state, to the community, for us to neglect our children to the degree where we allow them to dress anyway and do all of these bad things and run with groups that are not good intentioned. I think we as parents, and I think the church has a responsibility to help parents to learn how to be better parents. And there are 50-some% of the population that are unchurched. So how do we get to those people? We get to those people through community organizations. FCDC is 2 blocks from this university.
I'm glad
this university should be teaching parents how to be parents, and I am adamant about that. It is a crying shame that we pay taxes to support universities like this university, and we do not have parenting classes out here.
Well, we're gonna go on break, but when we come back, I want you to talk a little bit more about that. We'll be right back.
I get really tough now.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
The great outside.
We both love the outdoors.
So shiny.
That's not a flower. We both love geology.
Oh, look. An igneous one.
That's not a rock. And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
That's not a dog. Hanging out has been kind of fun.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Dr. Josetta Wilkins, who is an icon in our community. She was just talking about a family structure. She's talked about her various time in education, I think about, 50 years?
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years, and I was just telling her during a break, she's done so much stuff, but we have to talk, we just have to talk about her breast care bill. I mean, it is phenomenal, and she's been honored all around the state of Arkansas. So I want to make sure that we talk about that. Can you tell us a little bit about it, Dr. Wilkins?
I can, and I want to say not just the state of Arkansas, all over the country.
All over the country.
All over the country, because there were legislators from other states who called me and asked me how did I construct that bill. As we crafted the bill, because, and as much as I hate to say, my husband had died with cancer, and a year or so later, I found out that I had breast cancer, and of course it was a great shock. But I was serving in the legislature. So I always say that when opportunity knocks you, but you have to be at the right place at the right time in the right conditions. So as I was recuperating from breast cancer, I was approached by a physician from UAMS who suggested that there was a great need in Arkansas for women to have the opportunity to be educated, to get mammographies, and to take care of themselves, to know more about breast cancer and how to identify breast cancer when you when you're touched by it. But the major thing is that if you find that you may have a lump or something, you need to be able to know what to do.
Yes, ma'am.
And of course, there are certain steps that you take. A lot of women, many hundreds of thousands of women, did not know what to do, how to find it, what to look for, where to go if they found themselves with the lump.
Yes,
I call it breast cancer, the big C. So this bill, I proceeded to craft the bill, and of course it is very seldom that you can be very good at achieving anything without the help of others.
Right.
A lot of people,
Yes,
a
ma'am.
lot of people helped me with that breast cancer bill, including the physicians from UAMS and the health department, state health department. We all conferred together. We had to make great compromises. And I always say this, Ephraim, it was a time of great pain, great stress. I was just about to recover from breast cancer. Not fully recovered,
Right.
but I had gone back to the legislature, and I called it, we had great debates, we had great arguments. You talking about arguments, I always said that it was gnashing of teeth. It took everything to get that done. It took 4.5 years. But now we are into the hundreds of millions of dollars. And this breast cancer bill created the breast care program that you hear about on television all
Yes,
the
ma'am.
time, the breast care program. So if a woman find that or have reasons to believe that she is having issues with her breast, she needs to go to her primary care doctor, find out, do whatever, but she will not have to worry about whether there's money. They will pay for mammography, they will pay for treatment, they will pay for her medicine, they will pay for everything. These are the working poor. Do not misunderstand me.
Yes,
I am not talking about somebody that's out to get something for nothing.
Right.
That is what the public wants to think, but that's a lie.
Right.
The public is thinking wrong. These people are working for industries, great industries that have influence all over the world,
Yes, ma'am.
but they do not provide health care services for their
Wow.
workers. So these women are working every week, all week, sometimes 30 some hours a week, because they don't give them 40.
Right.
Because see, if you get 40, you got to
gotta be
provide
full-time.
care, right, it's full time. So they work hard every day, and then they get sick. And then they die.
Yeah.
There are many young women who die
Yes.
from breast cancer because they do not get treatment. There are two solutions to breast cancer. One is early detection and early treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
And you do what you're supposed to do. If you go to your doctor and they tell you some things to do, and you say, oh, I'll get to that next month. No.
Right.
You don't walk, you run
Right.
to the doctor, get care. And that breast cancer bill created all of this, and it has worked successfully for hundreds of thousands of people. So on the 18th of March, at the Jack Stevens building, this Josetta Wilkins Award for the breast cancer program will be given to people who have worked out in the field to help make breast cancer awareness, to help promote care for patients, and to help take care of patients. In addition to that, let me talk about another bill that I've worked with, and that was the Martin King, that created the Martin King Commission.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the breast care, because you also tell me about this chair in your name that has been on to, because you don't like to talk about yourself a lot. I want to make sure people know that there's a chair that's being provided in your name, and it's the only non-physician chair. Is that correct?
It is the chair was coordinated in my name by the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences.
That's UAMS.
The officials got together and they decided. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't submit my name. They just called me and told me that they had decided to honor me by coordinating a chair in my name, the Josetta Wilkins chair, the only chair to a non-physician, to a Black woman in the state of Arkansas. And I am so proud because now the chair is occupied by a person who does nothing but research cancer, breast cancer.
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand that he is right on the edge, his technology is right on the edge, a cusp of making something happen good for women who find themselves with breast cancer. It is a great honor. I am so humbled by it, and I'm glad that God put me in the spot where it was possible to make this contribution to the state of Arkansas and to the world.
Well, we're going to go on break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of your various other bills that you've brought resources into UAPB, and we're going to talk about, finish talking about the breast care bill that's helped millions of people across the world. Okay. We'll be right back.
All right.
Get out to the forest.
Let the kids connect to their roots. It's gonna be so much fun. Yeah! Woo-hoo!
Hey guys, wait up!
And discover the wonders of nature with your family.
These trees are the key to our way of life.
Fresh air.
What a glorious morning!
Clean water.
Woohoo! This is great!
An endless forest adventure.
Let's rock this jungle!
Yo, this is untapped territory.
How amazing!
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to the Elliott Alert. My guest today is Dr. Josetta Wilkins. Again, legislator, mom, grandmom, educator, Christian, mom of the church. I mean, just everything. So, Dr. Wilkins, when we were on break, we were talking about a lot of other things that you've done, that you've been doing. Now, I know you don't like to brag on yourself, but I know personally that you were involved in bringing resources so that we could actually get that beautiful stadium that we have. A lot of times people don't want to tell the truth, but I know that you were the driving force behind that. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I was in the legislature. And remember, I grew up not too far from this university. So the university has always been near and dear to my heart because it's in my neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
And because I am an alumnus of the university, and I was in the legislature. So that session, I went to our chancellor and asked, as the university was right in my district, right down the street.
Right.
So I went to him. I thought it was my responsibility as a legislator to go to the chancellor, since this is one of the largest and most important institutions in our community. I thought it was my responsibility to take the leadership. So I went to him and said, what can I do?
Yes, ma'am.
He said one of the major things on his agenda that year was the stadium. That was before the stadium was built, designed, any of that.
Right.
So I said, okay. I said, well, what do you want me to ask for? And he said, well, I think if we could get $1 million, we would be doing really good. So I did. I went forth to the legislature. I crafted the bill. You can pull it up if you need to see it. And I started lobbying the other legislators. You know, it's 135 up there.
Right.
If it's 135 up there and you take your name off, it's still 134 that you have got to go to personally.
Yes, ma'am.
I always use the technique of trying to go to each legislator and ask him. In your case, I would say, Mr. Elliott, I have this wonderful bill here. It will make a certain contribution to the community. Will you support it? Will you vote for it? And once I have educated you, then we go forth with the bill. Well, the chancellor at that time said $1 million. Well, My husband had been in the legislature 19 and a half years. If he had lived that year he passed, would have been his 20th year, the first since Reconstruction. So I knew some of the procedures that you need to go through. So I decided if the chancellor wanted $1 million, I better ask for $3 million or $4 million to get a $500,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I went forth with a $3 million bill asking the legislature to fund that, thinking that if I got $1 million, I would be doing really good.
Yes, ma'am.
But I am the kind of person, once I put my mind on it, I am going to work. Heaven nor hell can stop me.
Yes,
The born, not born,
right.
and the yet unborn cannot stop me. So I had $3 million in my bill. Near the end of the session, when we were keeping late hours and we were arguing and we had all kinds of committee meetings, I kept sending forth this bill for $3 million. They would reject it. I would send it back. They would reject it. I could give you the names of the legislators who were in power at that time. So about one night, about 10 o'clock, we were still up there waiting for committees to meet and to make the final determination so we could sign a die for the year. And they came in and said, Josetta, we don't have this kind of money. We can't come forth. And I said, I have 13 votes that can stop a train.
Right.
And if you do not pass this, I cannot ever vote for what you want me to vote for.
Right.
So it was a swap, you know. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. So finally, one of the legislators came back and he said, okay, we'll put it through, we'll try it. And they wrote it into law. But if you put it in C, if you don't put it in the top, you got to go through revenue stabilization.
Stabilization.
So
yes,
I told him at that time when he came and said, well, we'll go on and put it in the bill. I knew that if he put it in B or C, it would never get funded.
Right.
So I asked him to put it in the stabilization law and bring me a copy. He put $3 million. I presented $3 million and I have a picture of it to the chancellor, a facsimile of $3 million that helped to build that stadium. Wow. And I don't think the people that were in power at the time, the administrators, I don't think they really knew what happened, even though I told them my story. I told them what I went through. I told them how I changed votes. I voted for stuff that I was not particularly interested in.
Right.
But in order for me to get that $3 million, I had to get support. I had to support some of the stuff that they were doing. So yes, I'm very proud of the fact that I did it, and I'm very insulted that they have not given any credit to that. All they have to do is go and look it up. It's in the law. So I am surprised, but you know, there are people who will sit back and do almost nothing. And then as soon as something happened that is really wonderful, everybody come rushing up to help to take credit for it.
Ma'am.
I'm not one of those. I can't brown nose, I can't lackey, I can't lick at you and worry you. If I did something, you should put the name there and say, this woman did this. I'm not looking for any popularity contest, but I believe that everybody who does something that is meaningful ought to get proper credit for it.
Yes, ma'am. I agree 110%. And that's the reason why, you know, I've known it for a while, and every time I have a conversation and someone says it, I'm really quick to correct them. You know, like you said, it is a public record for anybody who chooses to go research it and take a look at it. And I'm just so glad that we had an opportunity to talk about these things and to let the public know all of your various backgrounds. And see, I'm upset with you because we still haven't had a chance to talk about everything else. There's so many other bills that you've sponsored to help the university, but we are in our last session, and I just want to thank you for coming on the show. I need you to come back so we can finish talking about some more history and some more stuff that you've done. We haven't even touched your service as an educator here and the stuff that you've done as well. But,
well, let me recommend, maybe we should have part 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Because there are the character bill, the Martin King Commission bill.
Yes, the Martin King.
That really complements the Martin King holiday that my husband passed.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was one of the major reasons why I wanted to get the commission, because I thought that that commission would be an instrument to teach young people how to resolve their issues without resorting to violence.
And that's the Martin Luther King
That
Commission.
is the Martin Luther
Right.
King Commission. And that commission should be going into schools and talking to young people who are bullies, all of these issues that we're going, folks blowing each other's heads off every weekend. The commission ought to be out there working with these people, pulling them together and talking about how you can deal with your frustrations and your issues by other routes that you can take. There are so many options available to young people without having to take a gun and blow somebody's head off.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think that we need to go deeper, and I would advise you,
Yes, ma'am.
as a person in charge of this program, to deal with more of those issues than to just bring somebody who calls themselves something Mr. Wonderful or Ms. Wonderful to the program.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to people who have their teeth in it, who are out there, who are really working hard to make something happen other than a few bucks in their pockets or their name on the front page. If they want to get their name on the front page, go shoot somebody or cut somebody, and the commercial blows their picture up and put a big colored picture with the red eyes and everything on the front page.
Yes, ma'am.
Or the second page. Some days the whole page, second page, is nothing but folks who have committed crimes. But you don't ever see a whole page of folks who have done something wonderful for this community.
Yes, ma'am.
So I am going to ask you,
Yes, ma'am.
as a brother, as a leader in this community, as a member of the same church,
Yes, ma'am.
and we didn't talk to the church about the church.
Right.
I've held every position in the church.
Yes, ma'am.
I've held every position in the church except pastor.
Right.
So we need to talk about the church
Yes,
at
ma'am.
some point in time, and I would be honored to come back.
Yes,
really.
ma'am. Thank you so very much. And I want to let you know you have just been placed on alert.
Thank you. Thank you so much.